Greetings, my name is Monty Martin.
And I'm Kelly McLaughlin.
And we are the Dungeon Dudes. And today we are tier ranking the 4 subclasses available for Paladins in the 2024 Player's Handbook.
No matter what Paladin you're playing, they are one of our favorite classes in the game, and they excel in so many different categories. We're going to be looking at each of the 4 subclasses and deciding how they stack up against each other to bring the Paladin to life. There's a lot to discuss today, so let's get rolling.
So as we dive in, let's do a quick review of how Kelly and I tier rank subclasses. Up on screen, you're going to see some of the criteria that we use when we tier rank the subclasses. We rank subclasses against other subclasses available to that class and not across all classes, going from S tier all the way down to D tier at the very bottom, and considering both how the subclass builds on the base class in both combat, exploration, and social interaction. Although again, in the case of the Paladin in particular, most of the subclasses are pretty combat focused in terms of the abilities that they give, although the spell list tends to be where we find the non-combat exploration / social interaction options presented.
When we give a subclass an S ranking, this usually means that it is the best of the best. There is not really a way to go wrong with that subclass. It excels in all categories and really shines head and shoulders above the other options. In some cases, an S tier could be considered game-breaking, or it could be domineering over all of the other options, but there is also the case that the S tier is just the best choice easily.
A tier is generally where we love to see most subclasses. An A tier subclass is really, really strong. It contributes in all pillars of play, and it plays really nicely with all the various build options that are available to the Paladin, offering a variety of options when you combine it with the spells, the feats, species, other things that Paladins can pick and choose from. It produces build options that are great, but don't quite hit the dominant level of the S tier, and definitely stand out and above the B tier in contrast, because B tier is where things start to really depend on the build. Things aren't bad. A B tier ranking is a good ranking, but it generally means that the subclass isn't quite as strong or offers as much flexibility or power as something in the A tier.
The B tier could also represent a subclass that excels in the right campaign setting or with the right party dynamic. They may have features that are generally really good, but they might fit into a specific sort of environment better than others. When we get to C tier, this is where things get a little bit more specific. A C tier is still a playable subclass, but it is more niche in its applications. You're going to need a very specific build or a very specific set of circumstances in order to have this subclass actually excel at what it wants to do. In most cases with a C tier, there is a trade-off that you are giving up something that the subclass or the core class would normally be good at to excel in a certain category.
With the B and C tier, we also start to see cases where the subclass features don't really have the combo options of, they don't necessarily build on the class features, or they don't have as many ways of combining with like really powerful feats or spells as the S and A tier subclasses do. D tier is really where you should think twice before taking that subclass, because usually the D tier features either are broken, but in a bad way, in that they don't work properly. They require some sort of sacrifice from your character. So you have to build into a very specific thing that only happens once in a while. Or sometimes a D tier subclass, the features just never happen. They just don't work, or they don't come up often enough to be useful. What we like to see is subclass features that you can reliably use every time you sit down to play the game, and combat features that you can reliably use in every single encounter. And the less often you get that, the lower ranked the subclass is.
So let's jump into the subclasses, kicking things off with the Oath of Devotion Paladin. The Oath of Devotion is a very devoted paladin, obviously. They're devoted to their gods or whoever they swore their oath to, and they are there to protect them with everything they got, and they are going to show that right away with their level 3 feature, which is their spell list. And their spell list has some great picks and some average picks. We have Protection from Evil and Good, Shield of Faith, Aid, Zone of Truth, Beacon of Hope, Dispel Magic, Freedom of Movement, Guardian of Faith, Commune, and Flame Strike. I think this is a pretty good, but not great
I'm
spell
just
list.
not excited by it. It doesn't excite me.
Aid is already on the... So
Yeah.
the thing is that my favorite spells on the spell list are ones that Paladins already have access to. Now, I say this all the time, but there's nothing wrong with getting spells that are automatically prepared because it frees up your option of choosing other spells. But it isn't as exciting as getting access to a spell that Paladins don't usually have access to. So when I look at my favorites on this list, it's Aid, it's Zone of Truth, it's Dispel Magic, and it's probably Flame Strike, I think, is the one but you're not getting that until the end.
You're not going to use your one or you're not going to use your limited spell slots on Flame Strike.
Yeah, you're right.
At that level of play, it's just not worth it. Yeah, I just think that this is one of those things where like it's nice to have all these ones, but probably the only spell that you're going to reliably cast every game session is Aid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Shield of Faith is a good spell, but it uses your concentration and you might want to concentrate on something else. Dispel Magic is great to have packing along with you. I recommend it. Anyways, for all paladins, but like it might not be a spell that you use every battle. Freedom of Movement, again, not bad. Zone of Truth, really handy to have, but it doesn't excite me. I really think that this for me is the weakest part of the Oath of Devotion.
At level 3, they also get their Channel Divinity feature, which is Sacred Weapons. So when you attack, you can use a Channel Divinity to imbue your melee weapon for 10 minutes. You add your Charisma modifier to your attack rolls with the weapon, and it deals radiant damage, and it sheds bright light. So you get a glowing holy sword of radiant energy for 10 minutes that hits better.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
This is a huge accuracy boost for characters that want to use a single weapon, such as characters that are going sword and board or characters that are going with a two-hander.
At 7th level, the Oath of Devotion gets Aura of Devotion. Now, you and creatures in your Aura of Protection are immune to the Charmed condition. Although Charm doesn't happen all the time, when it does, it is one of the most debilitating things that can happen to your party. So just straight up immunity to Charmed is actually pretty great.
Yeah. Smite of Protection. When you cast Divine Smite, you and your allies at level 15 in your aura are also going to gain half cover, which is basically +2 AC against ranged attacks. I think by level 15, you're not going to be casting Divine Smite that much.
I mean, you might still cast it. I mean,
it's just that the other smites are also in play. If this keyed off of any smite spell, like if this could activate off Blinding Smite, or if it could activate off of Staggering Smite or Banishing Smite, it would be a lot better.
This might steer you towards using it more to boost. If your whole group is grouped together and you can boost up everybody's AC by 2, might make a difference.
It's not terrible. It's not bad. It just feels a little niche to me.
At level 20, which one thing that I'm just going to say right now for every single paladin, these level 20 features are always really, really cool, but I always have to like take them with a grain of salt that we're probably using them once in our entire campaign.
Yeah, totally.
If we make it that far.
Yeah.
So the level 20 features, all of them, love all of them. Every single subclass, great 20th level feature. Some of them a little better than others, but all of them are just like, they're like an extra bit of icing on your cake. You already have icing on your cake. This is just, there's an icing flour on top of the icing on your cake. And you're like, oh, a little bit more icing. Cool. Or maybe you even set this flour. I don't know. Anyway, the point is you might never use these. And the 20th level features are always going to go that way. But Holy Nimbus is Oath of Devotion's 20th level feature. So all of these 20th level features for paladins have this option where you can use it once per day, or you can use it again by expending a 5th level spell slot. And they sort of boost your aura of protection in certain ways. This one for 10 minutes when you use this feature, Enemies who start their turn in your aura take an amount of radiant damage equal to your charisma modifier plus your proficiency bonus, and you have advantage on saves against effects caused by fiends and undead.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Cool.
fine.
Yeah.
It's a lot of damage. I'm going to say, okay, I'm just going to declare this. The level 20 features have almost zero bearing on my rankings.
Fair.
For me personally, the way that I rank the Paladin subclasses, and people can argue with me in the comments about this, I care about the spell list, and I care about the level 3 feature, and maybe the level 7 feature. The level 15 and the level 20 feature, I don't think I've ever really seen them used.
I think when I played a Paladin, I used the level 15 feature a couple times.
Yeah.
And we never made it. We finished our campaign at 17 level.
So just a declaration that for me, it's like, I don't think that any of these features are ever going to bump up. Like, they won't bracket anything for me, right? So overall, here's what it boils down to for me for the Oath of Devotion. How good is getting your charisma modifier to attack rolls? Because honestly, that is the only thing this subclass offers that I feel it's that plus immunity to charm. That is what the Oath of Devotion is about. That is what you're getting.
Their spell list is average.
Yes.
And the features, like, okay, yeah, you can give your party half cover when you cast a certain spell, which you might not cast all the time.
At level 15.
At level 15. So yeah, it really is. I think immunity to charm and the weapon enhancement, channel divinity, are both amazing features.
I agree that they are both amazing features. Almost amazing enough for me to consider giving it an A on those two features alone.
The hard part for me, and this applies, I mean, I'm going to say this a lot in this episode, I already know it, but the hard part for me is like, do those features alone allow it to be an A when the spell list to me is a bit of a drag compared to some of the other spell lists
is such a drag
we're going to get?
It just is one of those things where like, I feel like I was going into this, even this discussion being like, oh yeah, the Oath of Devotion, it's a solid A. But looking at the spell list again, I'm just like, it is so boring.
And I know that we're not really counting the 20th level feature that much, but it's actually probably the blandest 20th level feature.
Yeah.
Out of all of the 20th level.
I gotta give this a B. Because honestly, I think that the accuracy boost is meaningful in a lot of cases, and it's really good in a lot of cases.
I think your spell list is a little more niche. Your level 15 and 20 features are not as cool as some of the other Paladin subclasses. Again, they make up this much of the rank, but I mean, that's still a bit. And the other Paladins have a better bit.
No, and I mean, look at the accuracy boost is really good. I really don't want to undersell it.
Those two features are a reason to play this Paladin.
Yeah.
Between the accuracy boost, the channel divinity accuracy boost, and the immunity to charmed, when those come into play, they're going to be very helpful. Yeah. But the thing is, charmed is an incredible thing to have immunity to, but it also isn't going to be all the time. When it is useful, it's very useful.
But you can go entire game sessions without that aura being relevant.
Yep.
Right? So what it boils down to with the Oath of Devotion Paladin, and this is kind of what it is the plus, and that accuracy boost is also now contingent on how good is your charisma modifier.
I also just, for everybody out there watching this, I think people forget this sometimes. So I'm going to say this as a blanket statement. Paladin, in my opinion, is an S tier class. So if you're playing a Paladin, you're already doing great. So if you pick a B or a C tier subclass, you're still playing one of the best classes,
one of the strongest characters
in the game.
But this is the difficult thing too with the Oath of Devotion. So your subclass feature is driving you towards doing single-handed weapons, right? Or single weapon builds. So one-handed or two-handed weapon, but only using one. And the strength of that subclass feature is directly connected to how good your charisma modifier is. Now, a lot of paladins are going to want to have a very high charisma modifier regardless, right? But that is a bit of a build trade-off there. And like, certainly I have seen people do really effective, like great weapon master style builds that go ham on certain things. And especially I know that like, look at, if you're going to do something crazy with the multi-classing of like, maybe you are you get the Pact of the Blade as a warlock. So it's now you're adding your charisma twice to your attack rolls. And now you've turned around and you got like a 20 charisma.
Yeah, there's multi-classing options.
That's the multi-classing build. That is crazy good. But that doesn't but that is the definition of like the depends on the build B.
Yeah.
So I think that this has got to be a B.
I agree.
Yeah. Oath of Glory.
Doing it for glory.
Doing it for the glory.
Not doing it for the gods, not doing it for anybody, just doing it for the glory.
Holy glory.
Holy glory.
So at level 3, you get Inspiring Smite. You cast Divine Smite, and then you use your Channel Divinity to grant 2d8 plus your Paladin level in temporary hit points that you can spread out amongst creatures within 30 feet, or you can give them all to yourself.
So,
or some to yourself and some to a friend.
This feature is a great way to get you and your friends to have some temp HP. And as you get to higher levels, it's going to maintain its value. The downside for me is that I am using a spell slot and I'm using a Channel Divinity slot.
You have to pay for it twice.
Paladins they're half casters, so spell slots are a premium. Your Channel Divinity is also premium. Yes, you have a few uses of it, but to give up 2 of your premium resources for a good amount of temp HP, I don't know if I'm going to use this as often as when you read this, you go, nice. In actual play, I don't think I'm going to use it that much because I'm using a lot of precious stuff to get it.
I know, but what else are you going to use your Channel Divinity for?
I don't know, causing everybody to be afraid?
Yeah. And then you want to use something. Again, this is another case where like it would be a lot better if it could key off the other divine smites too, like Thunder Smite or Staggering.
Yeah, it's a very specific spell. Yes, it's the spell that paladins are going to use, but the 2024 paladin feels a lot freer in their option to choose what type of smite they're using. And I think an oversight of some of these subclass features is not saying when you use a smite spell. Because that would have allowed us to be open with our paladin and use banishing smite while also granting our party temper. Like, it would have been better. But anything that says you have to use divine smite to trigger this, and I'm using a Channel Divinity, I actually think I would rather use the frightening level 9 Channel Divinity.
Yeah. Okay, so the spell list has Guiding Bolt, Heroism, Enhanceability, Magic Weapon, Haste, Protection from Energy, Compulsion, Freedom of Movement, Legend Lore, and Yolanda's Regal Presence on it. Of these, I really like Enhanceability. I
like Guiding Bolt.
But
you don't have to like it. I like it.
I like Haste.
I like Haste.
And Regal Presence is all right. We've got a good mix. Compulsion is, you're never going to use Compulsion. It's terrible. Freedom of Movement is fine. Legend Lore is just super niche, but it's cool that it's there. Heroism, I don't think you're going to want to concentrate on that. No. And you've already got a way to give to have very hip.
Heroism is a great spell, but the fact that it requires... we actually had a very funny moment when we were working on this episode where I was like, why wouldn't we recommend Heroism? And I read it and I'm like, yeah, there's nothing wrong here. And then Monty said, is that what you want to use your 1 concentration for? And I instantly said no. Yeah. And that kind of defined it for me.
I think the defining things here, at least low levels, Guiding Bolt could be useful sometimes, but Paladins just aren't going to be accurate with it.
It's true. Guiding Bolt is not going to be as good as running up and smiting with your sword. So,
Enhanceability, I could see using out of combat. It's a great non-combat spell. Haste, really good.
I think that this spell list is more exciting than the Devotion spell list, but it's still mid.
It's weird to say a spell list that has enhanceability and haste on it is mid, but it does. It feels like enhanceability and haste were like, and then it didn't stick the follow through.
Well, here's another question. Like, haste, even still, is I might rather concentrate on bless
Yeah.
than haste.
Yeah.
So
Depends.
it's actually still a tough call on whether haste is super valuable.
We also get another channel divinity here. Peerless Athlete. Channel divinity to gain advantage on athletics and acrobatics and increase your jump distance by 10 feet for 1 hour. So I guess this is like, sure. I'll take it. So, like,
No.
I'll take it.
Okay. It's here. I generally there's abilities in the game that are always like your athletics and acrobatics get better. And it's like, I think the fighter is something where they can like, a battle master can use a maneuver to increase their athletics. And it always just feels like it rarely comes up. And when it does, I forget to use it.
I mean, it's a nice exploration piece.
It's not completely useless.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
But it's neat.
Yeah.
It's niche.
Aura of Alacrity boosts your speed by 10 feet, and allies who enter or start their turn in the aura also boost their speed by 10 feet. This is actually really nice, and this will come up a lot. The speed boost is great, and the speed boost for your allies is great too. I like it.
Yeah.
I like the level 7 feature.
I will say it's interesting because I don't know if it's as impactful as being immune to the charmed condition, but here's the thing. The charmed condition is going to come up less. Yeah. It's going to be more valuable when it does come up.
But the speed boost is going to work all the time.
The speed boost is always valuable. Yeah. So it's like not as good, but always okay. Yeah. As opposed to great sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes always okay is better than great sometimes.
So the level 15 feature is Glorious Defense, and it is a reaction to add your charisma modifier to the AC of you or an ally within 10 feet when they're hit by an attack. And then if the attack misses, you get to make an attack against the attacker, assuming you're in range. You can only use this a number of times per day equal to your charisma modifier.
If it hadn't been for that last sentence, this would have been a really cool ability. Charisma is usually our secondary stat.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at a +3, maybe a +4. So
that's what I assume too.
I'm only getting 3 uses of this. Now, it's not a bad feature.
No.
And I don't think this makes it a terrible feature. I just wish that we didn't have the drawback on it of a certain amount of uses because I would like to use this a lot. But maybe it would be too powerful if I could use it a lot. So,
I mean, okay. Think about something like the fighter's bait and switch maneuver, which at this level of play, like the fighter is rolling a D12 and adding D12 to someone's AC.
I would, okay.
Right?
I do think this ability needs a limiter onto it. If you could do it every single turn, or every time every time somebody gets attacked within 10 feet of you is too often.
No, it isn't. Because think of it like this. The shield spell, which you could have had from level 1 by taking magic initiate, is +5 to AC against all attacks for a round.
Yeah, but that uses a spell slot and a reaction.
Yeah, and this is using a reaction and 3 to 4 uses per day.
Okay, I suppose if it's a reaction that limits it to once per round.
Yeah,
so that is a limiter.
It is. I hate to compare this to like non-paladin abilities, but if you look at like the AC the really good AC boosting abilities like bait and switch and shield, like they're way more useful and apply to like multiple attacks.
And you get them earlier.
And you get them way earlier.
So
yeah. Like yeah, cool. Is this a cool like get out of jail free card that comes with an extra attack? Sure, but like if you compare it to it's not a huge factor in my rankings, but it's also not a great ability in my opinion.
And at 20th level, we're a living legend. Same idea, once per day. You can use this, or you can expend a 5th level spell slot. You gain advantage on charisma checks, and you can take a reaction to reroll a failed save.
I like that, but saves are going to be really good.
Once per turn, when you miss an attack, you can also cause it to hit instead.
That I like.
If you mess up a save, you can reroll it. If you mess up an attack, you can just hit. Mm-hmm. This is a pretty great 20th level feature. I like it.
So going into this, I was going to rank Devotion higher than Glory. But you know what? I feel the same about both of them. I just feel that both of them are kind of meh to me. And I'm acknowledging my biases in this, but like, it's like Glory has like some nice spells on it because it has haste and enhanceability. It has a really meh channel divinity.
Yeah, and that's a problem
That's
because that's like our big
that's
feature.
costly.
And the speed
Like it's
increase.
a big boost of temporary hit point.
Yeah.
And the speed increase is good.
It's good, but it's not great. It's not excellent. It's not the best. It's good. It's so really this is baseline good. Using your channel divinity to increase your acrobatics and athletics requires the right circumstances, maybe the right campaign, maybe the right adventure. I don't know, but it does feel like a B again.
I mean, the only thing that we have on the subclass that is meaningfully going to boost our own damage is going to be haste.
This still feels like it could be a C to me.
It does.
Because
it's weird to give a class that has haste, like to give it a C.
Hey, haste! I've seen haste ruin encounters.
On the other way.
Going the other way.
And it's pretty late too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like this is a B minus C ish sort of thing. It just, I don't know. It doesn't get me.
A lot of the abilities they either don't feel impactful, they come online too late, or they don't do enough.
Yeah. Or you can't use them enough, or they're too costly. Like there's just too many why? Like why do I have to like both pay the channel divinity and cast divine smite? Like it's a lot of temporary hit points by mid levels.
I think that it would have been fine if it was just use channel divinity to do this. I actually don't think, because you have to be making an attack. You have to be casting one of your many spell options. And you have to be using a channel divinity. That is three things in play that need to be happening in order for you to use that. I think it should have just been channel divinity.
And I also go another feat that's really good for paladins to consider taking? Inspiring Leader. You know how many temporary hit points Inspiring Leader is going to give out? A lot more than this. I mean, it's cool at low levels. Like, I know that's a different thing, but like I could see a lot of paladins just taking Inspiring Leader and giving everyone in the party like level
between Inspiring Leader and Aid. I don't need this channel divinity, so I think I'm gonna give it a C.
Okay. Oath of the Ancients. Channel Nature's Wrath.
This is a channel divinity feature. You use a magic action to conjure vines around each creature within 15 feet of you. They get to make a strength save, but if they fail, they're restrained for 1 minute or until they escape.
By repeating the save. I like this power. The only thing I don't like about this power is that you have to spend an action to use it. I would love it if the vines could come up when you attack.
Yeah, it would
like the other ones.
This could be cooler, but boy, is it, in my opinion, better than the channel divinity options of the Glory Paladin.
Yeah.
I think, okay, my downside to this is that there is a saving throw involved, and your saving throw DC is not as high as, let's say, a primary spellcaster's is going to be. That being said, knowing when to use this against your big strong guys, probably not. Against a bunch of non-strong creatures like little goblins or your kobolds or your spellcasters, tangling them up is pretty awesome.
And restrained is pretty brutal. The only thing that would make this so good is they get to repeat the save.
Yeah.
At the end of their turns. If they had to take an action to escape, that would have make it so good.
Listen,
but
we can talk all day about what perfect is. I still think that this is a good use of channel divinity.
I think it's decent. I do too. The spell list is really good. We got Snaring Strike, which is effectively another smite spell for you. Speak with Animals, which offers some really cool utility. Misty Step, Teleport, love it. Moonbeam, love it. Plant Growth, actually cool battlefield control. Protection from Energy, which we've seen a couple times now. We got Ice Storm, which Stone Skin, and then Commune with Nature and Tree Stride, which are both like non-combat based utility, which are fine. The big standouts here: Speak with Animals, Misty Step,
Moonbeam.
Yeah,
but I think between those three, like that feels great.
Yeah,
I really like this spell list. I even like Tree Stride. I think Tree Stride's a lot of fun. No, you don't get it till later, but it's another teleporty spell. So you got some stuff to play with. I think plant growth is a lot of fun here. It feels thematic. It feels exciting. Even the ones that aren't as good feels like you're diverging from the main Paladin spell list.
Yeah.
Try out some cool stuff. So I like that.
Yeah.
Our Aura of Warding at 7th level, you and your allies in your aura have resistance to necrotic, psychic, and radiant damage. Okay, so this falls into the same category for me as the Charmed condition did, where when this is useful, it's great.
Yeah.
You love having resistance to necrotic, psychic, and radiant damage when you're fighting creatures that are dealing necrotic, psychic, and radiant damage. That's going to happen 1 out of every 5 to 10 combat encounters.
Maybe less. Depends on your DM. Necrotic damage does come up a lot. Psychic damage is going to come up all the time if you're fighting Mind Flayers. Radiant damage is super rare for players to fight it because radiant damage tends to be a thing that, like, things like angels.
Yeah, tell that to our party right now.
Yeah. I'm okay. I can't get over the 2014 version of this feature and how hard of a nerf this feature was hit by. In 2014, this used to be resistance to damage from spells, which this change makes it more useful against a wider variety of enemies who aren't necessarily damaging you with spells. But there's a part of me that's like, I wish that you could choose a damage type with this.
I wish
it could be more flexible.
I wish that there had been like 2 more damage types added that were a little bit more common. Psychic and Radiant are going to come up. Again, this feature by itself is B tier because it really depends on the campaign. It really depends on the adventure.
It's one of those things that is borderline C tier. The most common damage type that players face from this is necrotic, which comes up a lot against undead, right?
If you're fighting a bunch of undead, this is going to be a really useful ability.
Psychic damage is also
if you are doing the Mind Flayer campaign, then like by all means, this is great.
I mean, let me put it this way: unless you're playing Drakkenheim, in which case in Dungeons of Drakkenheim in our adventures, necrotic, psychic, and radiant come up all the time, making this really good in Drakkenheim. It is the definition of like it's going to depend on your campaign. Yeah. If there was something like poison damage in there, it would just or fire damage, that would have really taken it over the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At level 15, our Undying Sentinel ability allows us to stay alive once per day when reduced to 0 hit points. You drop to 1 instead, and you regain hit points equal to 3 times your Paladin level.
So you bounce back to 46.
I actually really like this feature because there are features on other classes. They come online much earlier, I'll say. So there is that. Other classes have a feature where you get back up with 1 hit point. Yeah. But always it's a scramble. You get back up with 1 hit point and you're like, oh my God, get me out of here. I need to drink a health potion. Please don't hit me.
Or if you're getting multi-attacked, yeah.
Yeah, then you're... But this instantly is just like, no, you're back up and you have enough hit points to take a couple hits so you can figure it out. Basically you get a second life.
Yeah. Elder Champion. Once per day, again, you can do it once per day or use a 5th level spell slot to activate this. This one lets you cast all your spells as a bonus action, gives enemies in your aura disadvantage on saving throws against your spells and channel divinity, both pretty sweet, and gives you regeneration 10 for the minute that it lasts. Pretty crazy.
Again, you can't die. Yeah. Like, not only are you bouncing back if you die, but regeneration is pretty huge. Like, that's 10 extra hit points every turn.
Yeah. Okay. I think that the Oath of the Ancients it is definitely stronger than the Oath of Glory. It is a better spell list. It is a better channel divinity. The Aura of Warding stands on the same page for me as the Oath of Devotion's. All the auras here between these 3 so far all feel kind of on par. They're just niche.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, it's I feel like Ancients and Devotion are pretty close, with Ancients having the best spell list we've seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that its channel divinity is not as strong as devotions, but it's way better. It's I think that the flat out accuracy boost that with no action to activate is just a no-brainer, whereas you have to be a little bit more tactical with the channel divinity power on the on the Oath of the Ancients, because it's an action to cast and it's a strength save.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are going to have a hard time talking me out of giving this one an A. I'm just going to say
Why?
that. I think that the spell list is a huge part of the subclass. And I agree with you about the channel divinity, but I do think that this channel divinity is still impactful, and it's an AoE and it can affect multiple targets. It can undo encounters.
Well, let me put it this way. With the Oath of the Ancients, here's what it comes down to. You're going to use the channel divinity power in every combat.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to use Moonbeam a lot. You're going to use Misty Step a lot.
Yeah.
You will use Speak with Animals, but not a lot. But both the second level spells you're going to use a lot because they give you a massive mobility boost and a damage boost, and there's non-combat utility in the spell list as well. Okay, so those are a bunch, and because it's bringing spells that paladins don't normally get into the picture.
That's a huge bonus for me. I just think that, like, as opposed to, okay, if we look at each ability, Oath of Devotion kind of does this like spike and drop. Oath of Glory kind of does this like mid flatline.
Yeah.
And Oath of Ancients, I think, kind of like does a little bit more like through its whole process. It's like good, okay, good, okay, good, okay. And I think that for me is like there's nothing here that isn't decent. And adding to it. So for me, this is an A. I understand if you want to give it a B, but I think it's better than Devotion and Glory.
I'm really divided on it. I think that what it boils down to for me, and we'll get into this when we talk about the last subclass, is that the Paladin remains one of the cases where the best subclass is so far ahead of the other subclasses that it's really hard to look at the other subclasses and not see their flaws.
But I already know what I'm giving the last subclass.
Yeah,
and I know where it stands, and for me, this one is the second best subclass.
For me, I don't know if Devotion or Ancients is the second best, so I feel like I want to keep them, for me personally, both in B. But I think that for the purposes of today, I think that we will put Ancients in the A tier, Devotion in the B, and we'll put the Glory in the C, just because I think that creates a clear hierarchy in the ranking.
Sure.
Yeah.
So far we have our A, B, C.
But with the caveat that like they could all
be B.
They could all be Bs. So now the main event. The Oath of Vengeance.
Let's talk about their spell list. Let's just talk about their spell list for a second.
Bane, Hunter's Mark, Hold Person, Misty Step, Haste, Protection from Energy, Banishment, Dimension Door, Hold Monster, Scrying.
Protection from Energy and Scrying are the only two on here that are good, not great, and good is still good. Everything else on this list is great. Everything else on this list is the best. If somebody was like, hey, Monty and Kelly, make a list of some of your favorite spells in the game, we would hand you the Vengeance Paladin spell list and say, there it is. So
plus like Fireball, Counterspell, and Wall of Force.
Yeah, if they had Fireball, Counterspell, and Wall of Force, it would be unfair.
Maybe Hypnotic Pattern too.
Fair.
But
this is an all-star list.
This is an all-star list. And these are, once again, these are all spells that you're going to use all the time. Like Hunter's Mark, and the glory about this is that Hunter's Mark and Divine Favor can be combined together because
Hunter's Mark, Divine Favor, and you can still be smiting if you want.
If you want to. Hold Person is solid, but you're probably going to be Misty stepping more often. Haste, again, is really good. Banishment, amazing. It is on the Paladin spell list normally, but it's still amazing. Dimension Door is Dimension. What can I say about Dimension Door that isn't just a glowing review? And
that's great.
Yeah. And by the high levels, like Scrying is just crazy good to have, and Hold Monster, if you land it, will end an encounter.
Because the Vengeance Paladin has the greatest spell list out of any paladin, surely the rest of their features will bring it down a peg.
No.
The next
Vow of
step,
Enmity.
we have the Vow of Enmity, which is their Channel Divinity feature that when you take the attack action, you can use this Channel Divinity to gain advantage on attacks against the creature for 1 minute. If the creature dies, you can move the vow to another creature.
With no action.
No action required.
No action. Just...
So what this actually means, if you're looking at this, you get advantage as long as you're killing creatures one at a time, which you likely are. You're getting advantage on all of your attacks for that entire combat encounter. You just get to say, I'm starting with you.
Yeah.
And then you kill them and you point to the next guy and go, you're next. And just keep wailing on them with advantage. Maybe you throw down haste so that you can wail on them even more.
And you've got 2 uses of Channel Divinity. They come back on short rests. You're going to be able to, basically, this basically, in practice, this turns into you are always attacking with advantage. Amazing.
Now, surely their aura can't be the best aura of all of the paladins. Maybe it's not, I don't know. But Relentless Avenger, your opportunity attacks reduce creatures' speed to 0 on a hit, and you can then move half your speed without provoking an opportunity.
You just got half the Sentinel feat.
Yeah. Now, again, like all the auras, and this is where I start to have to say all the auras are about even, because they're all niche. And that should, you're not always making opportunity attacks.
Yeah, but when you are, you're reducing their speed to 0 so they don't get away from you, and then you get to reposition.
I will say this is a great aura. If we account for the fact that every aura is niche, this is a pretty good niche. This is a great niche ability. And on 15th level, Soul of Vengeance, when your vow target hits or misses, so essentially when they attack, spend a reaction to make a melee attack against them.
So it's just an extra attack.
If somebody is attacking you, no, you're attacking them.
Yeah. It's now it's just a react. Basically, what this looks like is at 7th level, we kind of got half of Sentinel. And then at level 15, we got the other half of it in a weird Polar Master Riposty sort of way. So the subclass is very effectively weaponized your reaction. Mm-hmm. Because if your enemy is moving away from you, you're now getting your opportunity attack and stopping them and then repositioning yourself. And Soul of Vengeance is hits or misses with an attack, not even against you. So if you're in range of them and they attack one of your allies or they attack you, doesn't matter. They could attack one of their own friends. You just get to make a reaction attack against them.
They could be chopping wood and you just come up and stab them.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I got to say the Vengeance Paladin is ridiculous. I mean, what else are they going to do here? Make them fly?
Yep.
Yeah. So at 20th level, you can fly.
Avenging Angel, which is the best named of all of the 20th level capstones. You get a hover flying speed of 60 feet, and your aura frightens everybody.
It's the best. It's the best.
Yeah, and
you're a flying, scary angel of death.
Yeah. The Oath of Vengeance is so much better than the other subclasses, it's not even funny.
It's S tier, and it's S tier in a dangerous way that okay, I plan to not play an Oath of Vengeance Paladin, and I know that I'm taking a hit by doing so.
Yeah, it is unfortunate because the Oath of Vengeance Paladin, it loves dual wielding, it loves Radiant Strikes, it loves that it can stack Hunter's Mark with Divine Favor and make all these attacks with advantage. It is unquestionably the best damage dealer of the baseline. Unless you're going into multi-classing shenanigans with the Oath of Devotion, its baseline damage is the most impressive. And then it has all this mobility because it's got Misty Step and all the reaction shenanigans.
It has Misty Step and Dimension Door.
Yes, and it has haste.
I think this is one of those S tiers that it's actually unfortunate that the other 3 Paladin subclasses didn't get either boosted further I'm just going to say that. It's sad that they didn't get boosted further. And this is the problem. Okay, so I'm in the midst of imagining my future paladin that I might play someday. And I don't want to play a paladin who is angry or vengeful or out for revenge. That's not the character that I want to portray. And for that reason, I've locked myself out of playing a vengeance paladin, and it feels bad. And it's like, could my guy be angry and vengeful? But it sucks that in order to tell the story I want to tell, the vengeance paladin feels like the furthest one away from it.
And it's so strong.
And I feel like I'm missing out.
Yeah.
And it's a shame.
Yeah. This is one of those times when like the S tier is bad, because like I love that the vengeance paladin kicks all kind of ass.
Yeah.
I love everything about it from a min-max perspective. I like the flavor of the vengeance paladin.
Me too. I've played a vengeance paladin. It was so fun at the table. I have nothing bad to say about the vengeance paladin, except that it does overshadow the other three.
It does in a really, really like almost shocking way. I think we've looked at a lot of the subclasses so far in 2024, and this is one of the cases where it's just like, wow, this is a one standout that is just, I like the other paladin subclasses are not, to me, even in the same league.
It would be nice if one of the paladin subclasses had the best spell list. One of the paladin spellclasses had the best channel divinity. One of the best spell classes had the best 20th level feature, and one of them had the best aura and other feature. But instead, vengeance paladin got all of that.
Yeah.
They got all of that. Their spell list beats every other one. Their channel divinity beats every other one. Their 20th level feature beats, like, the other ones have good features and occasionally great features, but the vengeance paladin is great start to finish.
Yeah.
And so it's unfortunate. Now, I'm gonna darn well play an Oath of the Ancients paladin and make it awesome.
Don't worry, I'll just break the character over the course of the campaign, and then you'll have a reason to swear an Oath of Vengeance.
I mean, if I switch halfway through because you destroyed me and everything I stand for, then as long as you let me retrain into a vengeance paladin, then sure. But it is interesting that the paladin.
I began with so much devotion and respect for the ancients in my heart, but now all that is left is vengeance. Poetic. Great storytelling. Yeah.
Up on screen here, you'll see the final rankings. Now, again, for the purposes of this video, we're kind of saying they're S, A, B, C, because this is kind of the order that we would put them in if we were ranking them
top to bottom. But I think it's S, everything.
There's an argument that they're all B except Vengeance. I still personally think Ancients is an A, and I think the other two are B, but I do think the Glory is there could be arguments here, but I think that this actually makes sense in my mind, putting it this way.
Yeah, like, I mean, I think the thing here ultimately with it is, like, it would be really cool if what it comes down to for me is this. I feel like even if you wanted to play a healer paladin or a defensive oriented paladin, the vengeance paladin still does it better. Like, this is one of those things where, like, okay, what if I, like, the Ancients Paladin, shouldn't that be better for the sword and board build? Or the Devotion Paladin, maybe it's better for the healer support Paladin. But it's almost like your character would just be flat out better if you were Vengeance.
This is the thing, is all of the ideas of whether you're sword and board, whether you're, like, there are subclasses that lend themselves better than other, like Devotion doesn't want to be dual wielder.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's really about the weapons you choose and the fighting style you choose. It's not about your subclass. And for that, and like whether or not you want to be a good healer, there's not really much healing going on other than that one ability that we don't actually love because it requires your channel divinity and it's not healing, it's extra hit points.
Temporary hit points. Yeah.
All paladins have lay on hands. All paladins have the same access to healing magic. So there is no paladin subclass that's like the best healer unless
and the auras, all the auras are basically saying, do you want to protect your party from being charmed? Do you want to protect your party from being
from obscure damage types?
From obscure damage types, or do you want to make them faster? right? And then the Vengeance Paladin says, yeah, I don't care about any of those things. I just want to kill our enemies as they try to get away.
And you know what? Your enemies can't hit you with radiant damage or charm effects if they're dead.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best defense is a strong offense.
No mercy.
And the Vengeance Paladin is a strong offense.
Yeah.
And they know how to defend the party, and it's murdering everything on the table.
Yeah. And that's just it. It's like it's hard when you, especially when you run the numbers on what you can do with the dual wielding Vengeance Paladin, and it's very impressive. It just becomes one of those things of like, how do I justify anything else? Because like at a certain point, killing the enemies is more effective than trying to protect your party. Like that is the best way to protect your party, is because just as you said, they can't do damage if they're dead.
Do you remember that one time that I was playing a Vengeance Paladin and we were entering a aerial combat and I jumped off the cliff, and as I fell past, I slashed at, I think it was the dragon, and then Misty stepped above it and like dropped, because I missed the first time with my dexterity save. So then I Misty stepped back up and landed my second hit. Like Misty Step, so good. Dimension Door, so good.
Yeah.
Everything about, I don't know. I had so many iconic moments as a Vengeance Paladin, defeating a Demon Lord at like level 8.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, I want to just call out that the Vengeance Paladin is a Dragonborn, and like that is the optimal for me too, because the Dragonborn has the flight power. So now like you get that flight power at level 5, right? And so the Dragonborn Vengeance Paladin has like eventually at level 20, you got 2 sources of flight to activate.
Yeah.
Like, man, oh man.
I want to bring this home by saying once again that Paladins, in my opinion, are one of the best classes in the game.
Yeah.
If you don't play a Vengeance Paladin, you are still playing a Paladin, and you're going to be one of the best combatants on the table. You're going to be able to excel in social pillars. You're going to be able to excel in exploration. Somewhat. You're going to be able to excel in combat. The Vengeance Paladin does it the best, but I will say that Paladins in general, if you're sitting here watching this being like, oh, darn, I wanted to play Glory, and now they're saying that it's such a bad choice to not play Vengeance. Play Glory. You're still going to have a great time. There's no Paladin that is a bad time, and I really want to drive home that point. Paladins are great. If you want to cast spells, if you want to be the face of the party, if you want to destroy things with weapons, often in D&D, you have to pick which of those 3 you're going to do. Paladins do it all.
On the flip side, to be the devil's advocate.
Okay. I accept.
I think that the Vengeance Paladin might be one of the most fun D&D characters there is. Like,
I mean, if the Paladin is already one of the most fun classes to play, then the Vengeance Paladin is probably the most fun.
The Vengeance Paladin, and here's my case for why. You get to be a self-righteous, holier-than-thou jerk who nobody can do anything about because you're going to totally ruin their day if they try to stand against you.
Now,
and there's something, I don't know, maybe that says something about my personality.
Hopefully you're not that to your party, Monty.
To your enemies.
Because also the Paladins, and I want to say this as well, be careful playing a Paladin because they excel in so many pillars of play. Make sure that you're letting everybody else at the party shine, because Paladins do kind of have main character syndrome, and the Vengeance Paladin especially has main character syndrome. So if you are playing a Paladin, just keep in mind that you are playing a class and maybe a subclass designed for main character syndrome. Let everybody have fun at the table. Use your vengeance to help your friend.
I mean, I just think that maybe it's the ego thing. Like, I don't know. I gravitate towards it because, I like big numbers. I like kind of being an arrogant, angry...
I mean, my top 3 classes in the game are all charisma based, and there's a reason for that, because I love talking. I love the role play. I love the social pillar of D&D. If I'm not trying to convince the NPCs of something, then I'm not having fun. So you might notice if you watch our live streams that I'm always talking. Some people hate that I'm always talking, but it's my most fun thing to do in D&D is get into like persuasion bickering matches with NPCs. So for me, Paladin is right up there because I get to smite with a sword and get into the holier than thou bickering matches.
So so what I just want to say is like, as Kelly's saying, like, don't feel bad if you don't play a Vengeance Paladin. I want to say don't feel bad for playing one, because they're really good. They're definitely one of the best classes in the game. They're also ridiculously fun, and every time I've DM'd for one, it's been a riot.
And you played one at my table, and it was a riot.
And they're like, the good news is that they're fun, and they tend to be one of those things of like, I find for the other players at the table and even the DM, it's like, what are they going to do now?
Yeah.
Because usually the Vengeance Paladin is because of their particular constellation, the Vengeance Paladin is a great instigator. Like, they tend to move the action forward because they know that's wrong. I need to fix that. I'm going to stop you. And that's one of the things that I like about the role playing of those.
I'm not going to lie. I rewatched Dread last night. I just happened to, and I didn't realize how important it was that I watched Dread last night. But there are so many great scenes in that movie where he, like, what is it? There's a room full of 10 guys, and he's like, you have 10 seconds to comply. And they're like, there's more of us. And he's like, 5 seconds to comply. And they're like, what are you going to, and then he just, like kills them. And I'm like, such a Vengeance Paladin. Like, walk into a room full of demons and be like, you have 10 seconds to bow down and surrender yourselves, or else I'm going to murder all, like, I don't know. Watch Dread and then play a Vengeance Paladin. It's great. We hope that this has given you some fodder for choosing your next Paladin. Again, I think they're all great choices, and they're all really fun and flavorful options.
I just think the Vengeance Paladin's the best.
I love Paladins. I really love Paladins. They're in my top 3. Yeah. You probably know what my other top 2 are. If you don't, watch more of our show.
Sorcerer and Bard.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Sorcerer and Bard. And yeah, tell us about what Paladin you plan to bring to life in the comments below.
The videos that we make on our channel are made possible thanks to the incredible generosity of our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed a little bit of the rambling at the end of this episode, we've actually been starting to put out some extra B-sides from more rambling from these videos that we're going to be having going out to our Patreon supporters. So if you want to hear more of us talking about movies and pop culture and waxing rhapsodic, get on our Patreon and check that stuff out. The links are right down below.
And if you want to see us delivering vengeance, but not as a paladin, anyway, if you want to see us playing some D&D, check out our actual play in the Worlds of Drakenheim. It airs Tuesday evenings right here on YouTube. You can check out all the previous episodes right up over here.
And we've got plenty more tier ranking videos for the other classes in 2024 right up over here.
Please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and ring that bell so that you never miss an episode.
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time
in the dungeon.